So welcome to another session with our Earth Nouveau Hub, and we are going to explore some more consciousness. And we're just going to see where consciousness is going to take us, really. I think from now on, unless there is a really pressing thing, I will not have any suggestions where to go. And we're just going to go to the edge of unknowingness and just see what comes up. So in order to kick it off, I mean, I was just thinking what we could start looking into. Well, first of all, how are you? How is everyone? And is there anything on your side? Okay, so what would you like to get out of this session today? Let's start with that.
Good morning. I'm doing okay. It's cold here, so I'd like to get some heat out of the session today.
Okay.
Warm up the atmosphere just a wee bit.
Good. Well, we're going to heat it up. We're going to put some fire under your ass. Okay, Lana? Let's just heat up the conversation, see what topics come up, what we can talk about, what would you like to talk about, any questions, anything you want to share, anything, and just really see how we can just let it flow. Yeah. Just let the conversation flow.
I was thinking about, I was thinking about as I was walking this morning, the Earth Nouveau Hub in the Hollow Earth. And so just my visualization for some heat for Lana is all of us sitting around the fire in a little powwow, coming together and letting that fire transmute some of these heavy, dense energies that have been flowing through, that we're all rising to the top of.
Like tanks, like neutralizing the atmosphere a little bit, where there's not excessive cold and excessive heat and excessive flooding and excessive warring and excessive everything, but just to bring a nice balance back into the Earth's atmosphere and penetrate that into the inner Earth and let that flow through the poles. South Pole, North Pole.
East and west, north and south.
Right.
All around us. Up, below, center. Grounded.
I'm going to put another log on the fire.
I was going to say that what I would like out of today's session is laughter. I think that would help clear out some of the heaviness that we're all kind of picking up on right now. And to share an experience for me this morning, when I get up, I do a yoga routine in my room right in front of a dormer that faces out a window that looks in my front yard, and there's a big oak tree in front of it. And I had just finished my yoga and I was sitting there, meditating, and I had opened my eyes, and I always see faces and figures and trees and stuff like that. And there was a crone in that oak tree looking at me, and she was sitting exactly how I would sit, like with one leg dangling and one leg tucked under her, just very casual. I'm very casual, and I've had on my mind lately, am I being too casual and not being respectful enough of honoring the ancestors and ceremony and stuff like that? Am I taking things too casually? And she just looked at me and told me that I was doing things exactly as I should, and it just set me at ease that I don't have to worry about being uptight. It's okay for me to be casual. So, and my birthday was yesterday, so I'm another year older, so the crone coming to visit was interesting too. So that was my morning before I came to work.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Yes.
Thank you.
It's interesting you talk about the crow, because when I closed my eyes this morning and I was sitting quietly, I actually saw a black bird that looks like more like a crow pop into my my vision, and I couldn't tell if it was navy blue or black. But then again, the beak sort of transformed into what a toucan would look like. A toucan would look like that longer beak, but then it switched back to the crow. So it was a blend in between both, but it was as big as a normal crow you would see flying around, those black birds, you know. So maybe I was picking up on your crow there for a minute or two. So thanks for sharing that.
So what's with the heaviness? Who else is perceiving that heaviness? I've been doing more sessions since I've been back. So there's definitely something going on where people are starting to reach out again. And it almost feels like, remember a couple of months ago, you know, even years, we were saying that the time will come where people are starting to reach out to us. And there's not really much we need to do other than, you know, carry on with our daily practice and stay in our path of joy and just allow that to happen. And, you know, maybe this is now the time where people will start doing that more and more and more. Do you get the sense of that?
I do. I do sessions on the weekends because I have a different job through the week, and I'm booked through April now. So people are coming out of nowhere and traveling for sessions and things like that. They're really seeking out help. I think there's a lot of fear mongering going on. They're definitely stepping it up. I don't watch the news, and I don't buy into a lot of the dialogue, but I still feel it a lot of times in the collective, and so I have to keep it cleared out of my system. Even if I don't, they're not my emotions, I can still pick it up in the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. So this is important, you're saying that. Are we all finding that easy is not a good word, but are we all having ease with doing that, perceiving it in the collective and not making it ours? Are we all good with that? Yeah, remember we were talking, sorry, Amy.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that lately I've been doing that recite, right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, you know, they're like coming in, these thoughts, and they're not mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been noticing that and doing that. It's almost like rituals I've been doing. It's like I'm making up my own rituals of picking up on other people's stuff that's not mine. Mm-hmm. Which makes it then heavy, right? Like it's like heavy, but then it lightens. Like I can do it. You can do it quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, with ease.
With ease, yeah, with ease. Yeah, this is the thing. There's a definite shift in my world as well, where I can maintain, amongst all of that heaviness and turmoil, I can maintain my lightness. And I can really make the distinction of me being the observer without entangling. And it's almost like it's getting easier and easier and easier. And often, you know, I mean, there are obviously still, you know, points where, you know, okay, well, let me see what that means in my life. And am I still running that energy and stuff like that? But it's getting quite, you know, I'm much more comfortable with, you know, not having to run all those clearings or to even do all the ceremony, the ritual and the daily practice. Having said that, I was wondering the other day, you know, when we talk about daily practice, and I realized that my daily practice is so ingrained in my day that it's become such a normal thing to me that, you know, I'm not doing any daily practice. And then when I really start looking, it's like, yeah, I am. Maybe this is a reminder to just look at that. How much of this daily practice we're talking about? Be this now a ceremony, a ritual, you know, an exercise, you know, a clearing. Are we actually doing without even thinking, acknowledging it anymore?
Yes, I believe that it becomes a way of life. It's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be natural without you thinking about it. It's just a way of being, a way of existing, a way of living. So it becomes effortless, and you're not always trying to defend yourself. You're just naturally doing it, like riding a bicycle. It's just natural to you to be able to do that once you learn it.
There's almost a newly found joy. You know, we talk about it, joy. We always talk about blissfulness and joyfulness and everything, but I've been realizing over the last couple of days, I don't know, and Mexico was definitely part of that, that helped me get to that space where very simple, even eating, which has never been my thing. I've never been like, oh, this is so good and I'm so enjoying this. It was like eating to survive, really, you know, not really because it is such an amazing, nurturing thing for me. And that has changed. All of a sudden I'm eating, I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. This is amazing, you know? So something has happened. And I don't even want to go into the, you know, finding out exactly what kind of, you know, what did it. I know I did a couple of clearings on that and everything, but it's just very, very in my face that it has changed.
It's like you became alive, correct?
Yeah. And that's a beautiful way of saying it. And I didn't really feel dead before, but there's something else. It's like everything is joyful. Everything is joyful. And you got to be careful, you know, who you say that to, of course, because, you know, it's not so much represented in the world, but in my world, everything has become so much more alive. Thanks, Arina. Yeah, alive. You find that, anyone?
Yeah. May I share with you, because I kind like straight connected to this shaking energy that's happening in the world, because I am Ukrainian. I have family in Kiev, and I know firsthand what's happening with people on the ground. So me being a conscious person, if I can call myself that way, for many, many years, I see events differently, but still, it's so interesting. On level of physical reality, my body, yeah, it's part of physical reality. So deep cleansing happening. Like you, Martina, said, I consciously aware, I stay in joy. I see that joy. I already posted in my Facebook that my heart is celebrating. Yes, it is. But my body, my all physical tissue cleansing on so deep level, it just letting go constantly, you know. It's like I can't stop all secretion of my body, like tears, like that connected to emotional body, that emotional body that is supporting our physical life, physical reality. It's still black and white body, emotional body most of the time. Yes. And this is what's happening in my experience on that level. So deep cleansing. I was thinking before all this happened that I'm already like cleansed completely on that level. So I don't have emotions that would be triggering me. No, it's so fun. And it's so funny at the same time to experience my body cleansing on that level so deep, and it's bringing me memories of so ancient events, humanity events. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah. It's really taking a sneaky peek behind the veil, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, this is interesting because I have, again, I have a similar experience with cleansing my lineage. My lineage is cleansing, especially my female side. And the Mexico trip that I did with my daughter was facilitating part of that. And I can see what's happening in the in the female lineage in particular, so I'm working with my mum at the moment. I've got her on distance treatments, and there's lots of other stuff happening. And I'm thinking, what is happening, right? Why is this all coming out? And I think that's part of that trip that we did. And also my daughter is very interesting. I've had her, I did a Bowen on her. She's coming out. She tested for COVID and stuff like that. There's nothing, she hasn't got it, a really bad cold. So it's like the body is detoxing. So I got her on the couch and she fell asleep. She slept for an hour afterwards on the couch. And I had a very distinct knowingness of the past lives that we had, one in particular, when I saw her lying on this couch, and I was actually facilitating it, whereas in the past, in a ritual situation, I don't think I was facilitating in a good way. I was, actually, I think I was sacrificing her. That was very much like what came through. Some would say I read the Akash, I don't really say the way it is, but it was very, very clear that was it. And I was almost like saying, okay, this time around, we're going to cleanse this out now. We're going to heal that, I am now in this life, I'm the healer, and not the aggressor. So it's quite interesting how these past lives are sneaking through now with very, when you least expect it, it's like, whoa, what's going on here? And then it's almost like you start seeing it. You see the person, and then you see the versions, the past lives of them in connection with you. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in your life, sort of thing. And do you see that? Do you get that? And it's like, I'm looking, yeah? I am looking. I'm open to look for that. And you got to use your imagination to kick it off. Sometimes like, oh, what is this now? What does that look like? And then as you start allowing it to materialize, so I've always in the past, I've always thought, stuff just going to happen to me and it's going to blow me over and that. And I had that too, but then I started realizing that I'm still creating it. And often you just got to kick it off with the thought process, and you say, okay, let me play with that. Is this now a past life or not? And then it takes on its own life.
Everything comes up in layers and layers and layers, and you might remember part of one of those lifetimes now, and then 6 months from now, more will be revealed.
Absolutely.
When you're ready to see it, maybe.
Yeah. And I use props. Yeah. Everything that comes into my vicinity, that comes into my life, be this now a movie I watch, be this now an animal I see, just like Jane was talking and Lana before, I use them as props and say, okay, so what are you trying to tell me? How is that connected? So I've just watched, I had to rewatch for some reason, I don't know, Netflix, Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, I was just going to tell you, I'll ask you if you saw that show, The Gift, I think it was called.
Yeah.
You did the same thing in there.
Yeah, I saw it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Then I looked into Pumapunku and Tiwanaku as my next trip. And then for some reason, it's so interesting how you just start looking and then you read something and it's right there. The answer is right there. And then for some reason, I have no idea where that came from, but there was a connection to Göbekli Tepe in southeast Turkey, which is apparently very connected and it's going back. They talk about 15,000 years, but of course it's going back much, much further, long skulls, Neanderthals and all of that. And when I watched it again, I watched it with different eyes. It was definitely, I had to watch it because it felt very much into where I've just been.
Well, and there's deep, deep healing of the ancestral divine feminine, right? The female line in that story.
Yeah.
And then the end scene is just like what you were talking about, watching your daughter on the, lay there, and instead of sacrificing her, you're healing her.
Yeah. It was really interesting. I mean, obviously having read about the Aztecs and having been to the anthropology museum and everything. And this is why I've allowed myself, usually I'm so fast, I'm like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And this time I've said, no, let me really integrate that trip. On a daily basis, something else comes up. There was another thing, I have this past connection to the Austrian monarchy and to the Habsburger and to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. I think I said that before, with regards to all the mystery schools, and things like that. And obviously not necessarily in the nicest way. And when I was in Mexico, did I say that last time? I don't know. When I was in Mexico last time, we started talking to my friend about Maximilian, the brother of Kaiser Franz Joseph of Austria. And they sent him to Mexico. And he was killed there. He was a bit set up by Napoleon. But anyway, blah, blah, blah. Big story. And yesterday, I mean, the weirdest shit. I'm watching a Tarzan movie. Tarzan in Congo, blah, blah. And then there's a guy there talking about the fighting that he's done in Mexico with Maximilian, messing up the Indians there. And I'm like, whoa, where does that come from? Totally out of, didn't have anything to do with, well, obviously it had something to do, but I wouldn't expect that watching a Tarzan movie, And then he talks about that. It was almost like, yeah, you're on the right track. It's true. You didn't just make this up. Those are the little validations, because we all need them. When we start working on this edge of unknowingness, we can, say, okay, we don't need any validation. But you know what? It's nice. It's nice to have one, even in that kind of manner.
Well, and all those things that get drawn into our perspective have relevance, right? For sometimes we don't even know until later, or sometimes we're watching something and we'll be like, oh, wow. And then something unravels and it just kind of goes, boop, 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 and you have clarity on something you didn't even know you needed clarity on.
Yeah. Absolutely. And one thing I would say is it's important not to go and allow yourself to be distracted, by whatever does not serve your path. And that in itself is another contemplation to look at. Is this a distraction now? Some people say, well, watching Netflix is a distraction. For me, it's not. For me, it's not. Sometimes if you go into maybe too much, but I often watch things that lead me to the next, exploration.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Being able to discern when it's a distraction and walk away from it, or when it's relevant.
Yeah.
Touching your soul in some way.
And like we said earlier on, remaining or maintaining your authentic knowingness, no matter what other people say. Even if people say, oh, this is crap and this is not true, you should be doing that, all the shoulds and would and must-haves and stuff like that. Those are like Amy said, does this really belong to me? Is this really mine? Or am I picking this up from the collective consciousness? Because the collective consciousness is going wild at the moment. And the more awareness we have, the more we are picking it up, or at least observing it. Let's call it observing it. We're not picking it up, but we are observing it from a neutral perspective. So being aware of projections of other people. Don't take them on.
It's nice to see Amy. We haven't seen you in a while.
again. Nice to be here. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I did want to say, like in the beginning, when you asked that question, I don't know why this word DNA keeps coming in. DNA, DNA, DNA. And I don't know, I had these kind of like, what is the DNA? Like, do we have many DNAs? You know, like when we get those projections, how far does it go into our DNA? I don't know. I was just having all these little thoughts of, and I see the spiral of the DNA and how we can change our DNA. And I feel like that's what's happening, is this change within the body, even though it's just a skin suit. But I don't know, to elaborate on DNA, anybody, you know, because we come here and it's like, oh, my mother had this, so that's handed down to me, like diseases or emotional or, you know, mental things. Oh, mom did that or dad did that, so now we have it. But that's, to me, I'm just lately thinking about it like, no, that's not really true. I came here as me, in a family, but as me. And I feel like I'm so separated from and I have a big family. I have 8 siblings. So like, how much of that, I guess, is saying genetics, DNA, and how much is what we make of it on our own?
Well, if you think about it, you know, we've obviously learned that DNA's, and it's just a ballpark, is different with all of us, but it's about 80% memory, right? So, and 20% is the rest, is the vibration, the frequency, and the agencies and all that kind of thing. So what you're just saying is exactly correct. As we are cleansing our memories, as we are purifying our programming and letting go of the programming, we are not just cleansing ourselves, but we're also cleansing the entire, we are impacting the entire lineage, entire soul family lineage. Now, does that change the DNA, the genes? Of course, yeah. Yeah. So there is more space now for the light to come in. That in itself adds another rung, or, you know, I don't know, that kind of stuff. And then it's a matter of, will our biology adapt to it? Yes. Yes. We will start looking differently. And this is going to be quite interesting, because have you been perceiving either with yourself that you start looking different, younger, or different, not even just younger, different? Mm. It's almost like have you ever seen when you talk to somebody and the face changes? It's like when an entity comes in, it's a different person looking at you, the residual image changes. And then, you know, this is what's happening with us now. So look at a picture of yourself just a year ago to now, and then see how you have changed. Now, that's because of the change in your DNA, because of the change in your memories and the signature frequency, the letting go of, you know, the separation of density and all of that. And then you can perceive it in other people as well. And it's not just gaining weight or not, it's literally the bone structure changes, yeah?
If I might to say, in my observation, first week when it's just started happening, first week, I was strongly feeling that some vibrational presence in our experience as human beings and entire universe were leaving, just closing completely to annihilation, like connected to pain, connected to struggle, tragedy. It was just leaving our existence for good. It was my observation first week when it started.
When did you perceive that? Just recently?
When it started in Ukraine, so it's February 24th.
Yes.
And first week, This is what I was feeling, and very, very deep activation of dragon energy, just unbelievable activation. And we all know what dragon energy, it's creativity, it's something new, it's unknown, it's that translation of 1,000 letters into our alphabet that is our existence. Our alphabet, it's our experience on the ground. So this is what I was feeling first week.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very deep activation. And really, when you look what was happening there on the ground with human beings, it's terrible. On both sides, it's terrible. But on that level of energy, consciousness having experience, it was such a celebration, just unbelievable, heart opening and energy of some renewal, something completely unknown for us for long time, not unknown, forgotten for long time. That celebration of experience, celebration of existence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's also, if you look at the conflict, and I'm not really, what's the word, qualified to speak, because I don't know enough, I don't really follow anything. But the one thing I've realized yesterday, but briefly looking at it, this is they call it war, but it doesn't feel like it at all. It feels like something completely different, like what you've just said. And we're not poo-pooing, any of the what's happening on the ground and people getting hurt and all of that. But I've never ever seen anything being fought on Zoom and on social media like that. I mean, there was yesterday, what I saw was the Ukrainian guy speaking to Boris Johnson, and it was via Zoom. He was making a speech to the UK government, in the parliament, and I'm like, I've never seen anything like that. And it was totally, got to be careful here, but I felt very unreal to me. I felt very awkward.
Something new that we never had for a long time before.
Never had that before, right? Well, at least not that we remember, yeah.
And may I share another my observation again, because I'm so involved, I am connected to those events. I all the time connected. Like I said, I have family there. So another observation, very, very interesting for me, looking at events in the world. It is kind of like opened that starting in Ukraine thing, opened possibility for people on the ground who is not interested in spirituality, who are normal people just living their lives. Yes, it opened for them possibility to take out from them emotions that they didn't have before events, to let go. It's kind of like triggered from people on both sides, guys, on both. And in the world, look in the world, everyone on the street today, in each country, somehow people involved. So this is what I see. It's helping people, normal people, to take out on emotional level something that's stuck from old experience. I don't know, am I clear in my explanation, what I feel, what I see? Yeah.
Is it taking it out because it gets exposed so quickly?
Yes. It's just putting people into situation where you can't hold it inside anymore. It's just triggering inside to take it outside and express it somehow and let go, of course. Because, Ukrainian people, very hearted people. It's almost like Mexican people, a little bit with different traditions, but it's the same stuff. It's family oriented, beauty oriented. It's like this kind of heart opened people. So they can't stay in that energy for a long time. They just can't. They feed those people who they took like how you call it in English, who surrendered to Ukrainian army and they just stopped fighting. They feed them, they give them clothing and housing and everything. And this Russian guy talking with his Russian mom, and he is saying, they even don't beat us. You know, it's like in other situations, it's like if you take him on a fighting field, it's allowed torture, you know, like in other places of fight. And he's saying to his mom, they feed us, they give us clothing, housing, they don't even beat us.
Yes.
They care for us. So this is what that energy I am again emphasizing. Everything that was not triggered before now coming out from people who are not spiritual. And it's kind of like helping entire movement of lifting up and brightening our existence, even through these events, terrible events on the ground. But it's helping everyone today to lighten up.
I really love that. And you know, this it's almost an oxymoron what's happening here. It's almost like I heard Putin say, we look after your people when somebody gets hurt, right? I attack you and then I will look after your people if somebody got hurt, right? It's like, what is that? But you know what? As you're speaking, Irina, you know what I'm getting is like, do you think because the world is watching on social media and really being part of that it has such a big impact?
Yes, it's very, very important that we are living now and having these events in media. And you know, like you saw that guy, you said a guy is talking to government, UK government, it's a president of Ukraine, and he giving his speech. So it's so interesting. Why? This guy, he doesn't have any political roots, and he got into level of president. So he is businessman, but he is coming from simple, normal family. Mm-hmm. Again, he knows how people lives. He knows that level of existence, and he doesn't have too much interest in political arena. Business, yes, he will continue. Of course, he is having money and he took that position not a simple way, of course. He was supported. It's normal thing. This is that level of our experience. But he knows about normal, simple people. And he is now kind like coming from that position in his actions. You see, so it's interesting what you are saying. Yes, media was immediately activated from first day when it started, and they try to stay in neutrality just to talk about events. Of course, they are people, they want to celebrate with what's happening in their country more than what's happening. But you see, Russia, so oppressed country today, it happened. Putin continuing Soviet Union trajectory. He doesn't call it, he is calling now empire, Russian empire, and he is like a Tsar. So this is what's happening. So people in that country, 80% supporting Putin, his policy, but he is started his career in KGB. And, you know, they say it on a screen right now openly that one of things when you become KGB, you have to lie. You have to kind of like pass the exam, you can lie. And he is doing that perfectly. And you trust him. And he wasn't that way in the beginning. In the beginning, he was very strong leader, kind like showing I'm caring about my people. And this time, you know how propaganda works. It's twisting little by little. And today, those 80% of people, they are having agenda, but not reality. And I'm communicating. I have people I know in Russia as well, spiritual people, not just simple spiritual people. And I'm asking, okay, what your position, what you see, what you think? And you know, it's so funny. And at the same time, you can recognize that propaganda level. They supporting Putin, his empire views in the world. And they kind like completely buying into Russian nation. It must be the most powerful nation in the world. You know, it's kind of like scary. They talk about a strong position of Russian empire. They don't talk about people, they talk about empire. This is what kind like showing their level of understanding situation and tuning in into world. In the world, people trying now to talk about heart, love, they are talking about empire. Strange, yeah? This is that level of propaganda in that country. That's why 80% supporting him. Yeah. But there are, I'm sorry.
No, go.
There are 20% people, and actually it is European part. Russia is Asian country. Most of Russia is Asian continent, not European. It's only Moscow and Petersburg. It's a European part. From those cities, those 20%, and they are leaving country now because they're afraid for their lives. They say something and they're completely immediately suppressed in prisons, and they now took by law 15 years for saying something in a prison. Can you imagine? It's now in their laws and constitution. They just voted. So this is what I'm saying. People in that country very, very suppressed understanding and connection to reality. This is what's happening. And again, I'm talking on this level. Andrew mentioned in his last show about mafia level. Those simple people, they don't know about that level. And to be honest, they don't care too much about that level to the point when it starts touching their lives. But on the ground, this is what's happening. People who can still think and have their opinion trying to leave country. Because you're not allowed to have your opinion.
So they make a choice. They're using this opportunity now to make a choice to get out. This is for them probably an opportunity as such, even though it doesn't look like it.
But at the same time, when they are leaving country, they speak even louder. They are trying from abroad just to escape that punishment from government. 15 years in a prison just for saying your opinion. You see, but they go abroad and they, again, by law, suppressed any media that was trying to say different opinion than government opinion. They just close it by law now. It's not allowed. But those people who are escaping, they're even louder. They sound louder. So they are trying to make a change inside of country as well. And I saw it again, very interesting observation. I grew up in Soviet Union. I lived in Soviet Union till it was destroyed in with perestroika in 1989. Yeah, with Gorbachev perestroika. I grew up in that country, in that brainwash. And when I came to America, you know what was my biggest complaint? You will be amazed. I understood maybe 5 years in the future, living in America, experiencing freedom. My first complaint and biggest when I came in America, I was complaining, no one tell me what to do. This is how people brainwashed in that country, in that culture, Soviet culture. You have to have direction by someone who knows better.
Yeah.
You know, you don't even look into your personal opinion. And this is what's happening now as well. It's so interesting. That thing now, again, just dissolving. It's kind of like last experience of what Soviet Union was representing. Maybe today it's China only left. I don't know. North Korea, you know? Yeah.
I think what we're seeing played out here is the deprogramming. And if you look at the various things that you just mentioned, it's like, if you look at your own spiritual journey, where you had to go through listening to your own voice, making your own choices, understanding that direction does come from within and not necessarily from an outside source. This is what we're seeing here now, when I look at it, is the personal journey played out on the big screen. And the other thing which is very interesting for me is, like, we've talked about empathetic entanglement so much, right? As being the lowest denominator, being the low, being actually the martyrdom. Yeah. And when I look at all these countries that are supporting from the level of, I'm sending you arms and weapons and this is, again, I lead that back to my personal journey, where I used to help somebody and I wasn't really helping. Instead of saying, hey guys, let's just stop all that, and let's talk about peace. UK wanting to send weapons there. I don't understand this at all. That kind of empathetic entanglement from all these people, all these nations, that is actually not really serving.
It's interesting, again, if I may, if it's too much of me, just tell me, I will be quiet.
I'm grateful you're here, because you're speaking from the horse's mouth here. Yeah. And
Thank you.
really refreshing to hear it from somebody who has an insight. So please, by all means, carry on.
When you are saying countries sending some help to Ukraine, but look at them, they are smarter now. They don't bring troops, that means people, to Ukrainian land. They said, we're not giving people. It's already a smart move. But countries supporting that movement for democracy, not sending people, it's already a big meaning. But again, when they supporting that movement, recognize it's not happening on level boots on the ground, it's happening on government level. And before, remember how it works? Government bringing something, some idea, and then people, you support each other. You solve this question, and we will watch, and we will emphasize our idea. This is changing dynamics. It's already government working on government level to solve it. Of course, everyone afraid. In Putin's hand, red button of nuclear devices. And in Ukraine, we have 4 nuclear energetic factories, 4 guys, 15 Chernobyls. And he put his troops in those cities, and they are controlling now already 2 of those. one a nuclear factory, 4 Chernobyls, 4 reactors. In Chernobyl, it was just 1 reactor. So today in Ukraine, 15 reactors working. Of course, everyone now afraid. And government level, do you understand what I mean? When government puts some idea and then allow people or even make people, they don't have choice to solve that problem. Today, government solving that problem on level of government. I like it because it's already, I don't support that kind of intention when government create problem and they're saying, okay, people will find how to solve it among each other, like you just mentioned, Martina, to help each other. And it's very deep, ancient experience because we are all heart. We are based in heart vibration. You can't look at someone struggling if you have heart. That's why people were so much involved through our history to help each other. And what we were doing, we were solving government problems by that. Today, government on level of government activated. So I kind of see positive in that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I was only concerned. I was only referring to the UK saying they're going to send weapons, and that was obviously not necessarily a resolution as far as I'm concerned.
Not exactly if you understand what's happening in the ground. This is what Russians now doing. Again, I'm saying Russians, those poor guys, 18 years old, that he's sending to Ukrainian land. You see, what they are doing now, they are bombing peaceful areas in Ukraine, just taking out and destroying to the ground ancient cities with ancient culture, and they're bombing buildings where people live. This is what's happening. And again, those guys, young guys who are coming there, they don't understand. And they don't want to fight when they realize what's happening. There is agenda among Russian troops. And I believe some part of those Russians, they completely trust into that and believe it's their sincere belief. They even didn't know why they are crossed Ukrainian border. No one told them. It's like you go in for some learning purpose. It's not a war. So it's so many levels of agenda and propaganda, so many levels. But this is what's happening. Some cities already destroyed to the ground. And peaceful people can't leave those cities because Russian troops not allowing humanitarian corridors just to take people from those areas. So it's like I'm saying, a game of political arena, a lot, but struggling people. That's why when those economical restrictions, those weapons, Ukrainian people and government, of course, it's idea of government because they know what's happening. They are asking to close sky, no-fly zone, but no one can provide it. Why? Everyone is afraid about third war. If another countries will be involved in that fight, it's kind like can open that movement. But Putin is not hiding his idea. He wants to go to those countries if Ukraine, again, I don't see it happening, but this is his idea. If he got into Ukraine completely, he will go to Poland, Romania, Hungary, who were under Soviet control during Soviet Union. You see, so it's that thing. And today, they kind like see alternative to closing sky creates that no-fly zone. Because this is what's happening. They're bombarding from air those cities. They're not on the ground. On the ground, they're controlled completely. But they are sending from Belarus and from Russia border. They are rockets. And they are fighting so dirty. They are violating a lot of agreements, like war agreements, not to send some particular kind of rockets. They are still doing it. So it's, if you look at that, Ukrainians now asking, okay, if you can't involve to close sky, give us something that we will protect ourselves from sky, from air. This is what's happening. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why sending those how you said, Martina,
Weapons of some
weapons,
kind.
yes.
I don't know which one. So
Exactly, yes, sending weapons without people. It's the smartest solving of this question, smartest. Because if people, foreign people, besides those volunteers from all the world, they're just coming to Ukraine to fight with Ukrainian people.
it's amazing that there are so many of them.
Yeah, because like I'm seeing, it's a last chance to have this experience, you know, to be on the ground for those people. This is what I see. Dissolvement of some energies, they are not going to be present in our human experience on Earth anymore. And even in this universe, I don't know, other planets, but this planet, letting go of very deep stuff, like for good. For good. And it's like last chance for those guys who still want to have that experience, you know?
That's a very interesting way of looking at it. I like it. I haven't thought of it on that perspective, but it's definitely a karmic resolution on a big scale, isn't it?
Huge, yes, huge.
Tanya, you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, I just see like, you know, a big acupuncture pin, right? Going right into, you know, the heart of some of that old karma, bringing it up to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed, completely agreed. Exactly. That activation through that spot. Yeah.
So the best contribution the individual can do, unless you feel inclined that you have for karmic resolution, you have to get on the plane and fight with them, is to actually stay neutral in observance what's happening, and just in the knowingness that this is all karmic resolution. And if you feel inclined that you want to donate and you want to help them, by all means do that, right?
Another thing, if, for example, compared to wound, yeah, if you start to heal that wound and close that wound, but you have some pus inside of that wound, you didn't clean it completely, it will contaminate entire body. That's why those people who still have that energy inside, they don't have any other way how to let it out, coming to those, like being on the ground. Not everyone want to go and fight. Not everyone. I don't see it in everyone. Even people in Ukraine, you know, it's a law in Soviet, it was in Soviet Union, and it's still in post-Soviet countries. All men must give to country 2 years of their service in military. It's not a choice, it's a law. And it's happening 18 years. I'm not sure today, 18 or whatever years, but 2, and you don't pay it for that. It's a law, it's a service.
Yeah.
You just give 2 years of your life, and it's obligation. So I don't see everyone, even in Ukraine, they announced martial law. Means every man from 18 years to 60 can be now brought into army. It's a law today. Now they just announced on first week. So all men stay inside of country. They are not allowed to leave country. Only women and kids live in country. But men, they are obligated. And looking at those men inside, I don't see that everyone must be on a fighting field. I just don't see. Not everyone has that energy. So I'm very grateful that entire world activated now, and they are stepping in. Those people who want to fight, who want to have that experience like last chance, you know? And again, it's helping them to take out from their system what's stuck in them through this humanity history, galactic history. So I see this kind of volunteering thing. It's a good thing. It's a good part of letting out of that old energy of limitations. And again, it's allowing, like you already mentioned, to brighten our experience as humanity. You see, no one pushing them to come to Ukraine. They want to come. It's a good thing. It's a letting go. It's like you guys already said, on karmic level, completely dissolving of that energy, taking from human bodies.
It's definitely part of the karmic resolution, yes. And I suppose as from a peacemaker, peacekeeper perspective, maintaining that neutrality in observance is adding a healing without entanglement from a sovereign perspective, as being the pure neutral observer.
Yeah, if you're conscious, if you already have that inside of you, you can maintain that neutrality. It helps a lot.
Yeah,
you're already holding that equilibrium. And all practitioners doing it. I'm not taking any side. I don't. I'm observing from what's happening there on karmic level, on human level, on energy level. And when I look at human level, it's activating in me my involvement in human history, what was my experience. And as we know, we were everything, we did everything. So if you are conscious, you are helping by letting out what you personally experiencing, not hiding from your personal emotional triggers. But if you can maintain neutrality at the same time, it's a high level of your existence, high level of your involvement, letting out your personal triggers and at the same time seeing it as a universal experience of consciousness, what's unfolding, what's happening, shifts, all that stuff. It's a high level of your involvement, not being involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely, it's on the karmic and the dharmic perspective, from that perspective. So I think I just wanted to say that for people who think, well, people wouldn't think that way, who don't feel they need to do anything, you're still doing something by maintaining your neutral perspective here. That is the contribution through beingness, through being neutral, for not going into polarity and maintaining a level of sovereignty.
Could I add something here in the neutral perspective? Since you're talking about the dragon energy and so on, I want to read something that came from the dragon webinar, which Andrew did with you guys, Martina, a while ago, 2 years ago. And one of the questions that came up in the dragon webinar was about the dragon's energies. And what he said was, throughout the history, the Balkans, Romania, Ukraine, Hungary had a heavy dragon presence because there were high amounts of time travel wars over portals and access to the underworld. There were time travel wars in which the dragons would come through these portals, invade and remove negative entities, or negative entities that would be coming through these portals, and there would be these big celestial fights versus technologically driven aggressive species versus highly celestial mind species, all using psionic warfare versus technological warfare throughout time and space, which created these massive rifts. So what you guys are, to me, saying is that all these ancient wars that took place through these portals here, and with the dragon energy being present, what's happening is, of course, what we're seeing is they're having a resolution of universal karma taking place there right now. And so those who were involved in those ancient karmic wars will be involved here again to help resolve the karma, because we're bringing all the karma to an end. So that's what I'm kind of perceiving and seeing from my end.
Beautiful, Lana, and thanks for reading that out to us. We mentioned the dragon energy before. You guys have already been perceiving that, but it's really nice to have that just re-emphasized. And now we could do one thing. We could go to our edge of unknowingness now. Looking at
May I say my observation again? On almost third day or something, looking at those guys on the ground, soldiers, saying something, observing their faces, their energetic level, I start to recognize there are different dragons presence, like a young dragons, not old involved. And in some people, I see old, what Lana was just saying, those dragon energy that was involved in historical events of our limitation experience. I see those too, but I recognize a lot of young dragons. They don't know, they left. Remember Andrew was saying that at that point when free will stepped into play, on Earth, he said a lot of mystical creatures just left physical experience. They choose to be outside of this experience, waiting for a moment when that return of light will happen, free will, and step later. This is what I start to observe. Those dragons activated now who were waiting outside of this playground, outside of even universe, with all limitation experience. And I see it in those people that are on fighting field today. I just see that energy of those new dragons that bringing more light here, not so much involved in limitation experience when we were creating deeper and less light experience. So I recognize both presence of dragons involved in ancient experience of limitations and those dragons who were waiting for a moment when they can step and remind us about light.
So what comes up here, I'm just thinking now, apart from the ones coming out of the inner earth, the ancient ones, I would say, remember, we had in 2014, we had 70 million walk-ins. Now, 2014, now is 22, so it's like 8 years later. These could be the young dragon energy that you are talking about from all those walk-ins, maybe.
You know, it's so interesting. You mentioned 2014. Mm-hmm. Remember in Ukraine, we have that Orange Revolution. It's a first thing when Putin idea to step inside and violate Ukrainian borders. and he took Donbass, part of Donbass and part of Lugansk, all that stuff. Yeah, it happened in 2014.
Interesting.
Very interesting. I didn't connect that, but you are mentioning it was that walk-ins 2014. This is what happened in 2014. It was first thing, and war actually was war situation in those parts of Ukraine all these 9 years.
Yes.
And this is kind of like second wave when he stepped inside with his troops. You see? Thank you for connecting those dots. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, yes, I mean, lots of them would go into middle management, into the government itself, and all the, organizations and stuff. But 70 million is a big number. And, so, yeah, fabulous.
Yeah, there's something interesting coming in for me around the dragon energy and the young dragon energy. And what Lana read from those old wars, we were talking about DNA, right, and clearing the ancestral DNA, right, and how energy flows through. But there's also this energy clearing going on with the dragons also, right, from those old sires who fought those ancient wars in the old times, and now the new generation, right, of dragons has to remember, right, what happened, because that's in their DNA memory, and that has to clear also. So it's not just the human karma and the earth karma
You're making me
clearing.
remember something that I remember Andrew saying in some of the earlier shows that he did, and I never understood why this was so, but he said that the earth dragons, they were all thrown out of Earth. And I could never understand why the earth dragons were expelled from Earth. Now, in my understanding from this particular transcript as well, he said that each person or each individual that thing that is born, each being that is born on Earth is assigned a dragon. So there's billions and billions of dragons that are earth dragons. So now let's think about it. If all the earth dragons were thrown out of Earth and the dragons that came here were from other celestial minds that came to Earth, could it be that the earth dragons are trying to return, and maybe Irina, you're seeing them as new young dragons instead of their place was of Earth in the very beginning to begin with?
Thank you, Lana, for bringing this thing. It's a very interesting question. I was studying dragon energy when it came through Andrew. At point when I was connecting with my dragon, I was going at that time very deep to understand on physical level what dragon energy is. And on physical level, science recognizes that kind of energy as well. And I found in some scientific sources explanation what dragon energy is, and they explain it as physical force coming from core of planet, core of Earth, coming outside and creating some kind of vortices, creating some kind of activated directed energy. And if in Andrew's information, he is mentioning that everyone, all human beings connected to that energy, like having dragon connection. It is true. Why? Remember, he was saying that our planet is our celestial mother. Earth is celestial mother for each human being. And when human being born, we have part of Earth, some kind of energy, intention of Earth connected to each human being, and it's present in humans. If you look at that connection of planet to human beings, and you understand what dragon energy is, dragon energy, it's that creativity, it's that connection to celestial body, in our case, Earth. For humans who are on a surface having experience, to continue idea of planet for experience. So through us being on the surface, when we connected, and we are connected to planet, to Earth in our case, we have that connection to creativity of planet. What is planetary idea for experience, and it's supporting us, you know, like vortices areas, those wombs, yeah, it's the same thing, that energy of creativity. Yes, Lana, I see it. It's reactivating again for us humans on the surface, reconnect to that creativity of planet. Other words, return your dragon connection. Dragon, it's a creativity. It's something unknown. It's things we were agreed for limitation and not remembering our connection to source. Yeah, to have limitation experience. This is what's happening now. Reconnection back, returning our memory, remembering that we are supported by our celestial mother, divine mother, Mother Earth as a planet. And this is what that reactivation, my vision of dragon energy happening now, those what we call new dragons. In truth, we are stepping out from limitation and from forgetfulness about our original experience coming on the surface of planet.
Yeah, what you're saying is, what I'm feeling is that these dragons that were expelled from the earth were perhaps the dragons that were connected to the people on the surface of the earth. And those were the ones that were expelled out of earth, and they were sitting out there, just being in sacred neutral, being an observer, waiting for their chance and their opportunity to return to earth. So you are seeing and experiencing those dragons that are connected to the people of the surface of the earth returning now to occupy their place back on this earth again, with the connection to us, because they are actually our like the middleman between us and earth. So we're going to get a better connection back to our earth mother, because our dragons are coming back in. And this is what you're seeing as new dragons. But they're actually not new. They've always been a part of earth.
Yes,
but
exactly.
For language sake, we're going to call them new dragons.
Yes, exactly. It's kind like we are done with limitation experience, and it's time for us now to remember our true connection to this universal experience through our celestial connection. That means creativity of this planet, part of universal experience, activated again now. So we are stepping out from limitation experience. You see, we had to kind like buy into the disconnection from our nature, just stepping into limitation experience. If we would have our memory about that connection with celestial creative forces, we would not buy into that experience. We would not step in limitation experience. You had to believe in our disconnection and this is how we agreed to have limitation experience, and now it's done. So yes, that connection returning back, and our celestial mother Earth, it's a next level of universal experience. We can't connect maybe straight to Father Sky, it's more difficult, but through Mother Earth. And Father Sky, it's representing universal connection. But through Mother Earth, for some people, it's easier. And step again into unlimitedness, multidimensionality that way, through that connection of dragon energy through Earth.
So let me just add something to this and just look at that. As you guys are all looking at the moment, we're all observing this. Let's just, with an increase, with a heightened level of awareness, we are becoming more aware of the layers and more holograms. Yeah. So as we're talking about the new, we call it the new dragons, you know, I think that there's also an element of another layer of hologram that is creating the new Earth. So just widen your perspective as you're looking and just see how much more you can perceive when you look at it in layers, in hologram.
Very much agree with you, Martina, very much. This is that brand new experience that we all step in now. We're not returning to original. It's still based in our essence, love, universe, but it's something completely brand new. That's why maybe those dragons, they are looking new, young dragons. Yeah.
And the other thing, we are, as we're looking at all of that now, we are also looking at, we can start perceiving the different outcomes, the different possibilities of where this can go. So when Andrew sometimes says, you know, he can see all the different perspectives and outcomes. So this is a very playful, and I call it playful because let's not take this, you know, into a spiritual ego or anything like that, but play with looking at the different possibilities.
Well, I also just want to extend the invitation for the dragons that I work to come sit with us around the Earth Nouveau fire in Hollow Earth, so we can commune and understand from their perspective. And also, I just want to show you all this little crystal that was yelling at me to show you. This is the dodecahedron. And the blueprint for New Earth, right? Moving from the tetrahedron into the dodecahedron.
Yeah, we call this the Deca, Ikasa the Deca. This is that Christ consciousness that is organized in grid around Earth from some 2000, I don't know which one, 12 or something like this. Yes, Tanya, completely agree with you. I have a question to you, Tanya. What do you experiencing when we are talking about this new dragons, old dragons from your dragons? Do you get any message in relation to that through your dragon connection?
I have a dragon teacher who was giving me a lecture while you were talking, so I'm trying to understand like what that dragon was talking about. But what he was saying is that there were dragons who left from the sacred neutral perspective and dragons who got involved in a perspective. And the ones that left went, you know, it also has to do with the way the earth was dropping her energetic density at the same time. And so they couldn't really stay, is what he was saying. So they couldn't really stay, and there were dragons that dropped their energetic density so they could stay. And those were the dragons, the land guardian dragons, that a lot of them got entangled and bound. So their powers were neutralized because they were taking a perspective. And that was the information that's coming through. And I started working with dragons on the summer solstice in 2012. I didn't know really anything about dragons, and I was doing a meditation on Mount Shasta and had an image of a white dragon that was bound by chains and energetic chains. And I worked with my energetic team to free the dragon, and he flew out of the top of the mountain after that. And ever since then, the dragons have been working with me on a very strong kind of level. And I've seen a lot of energy barriers and bound dragons, right, who have been trapped by forces that didn't want them to be involved, maybe, but also to harness their energetics. And I'm not sure of all of the whys. It slowly kind of comes through. But yeah, there have been a lot that I've worked on releasing in different portals and vortices of energy over the years.
It's very interesting you are saying it. I remember Andrew was saying that some dragons had to be involved into duality experience and step on a side of that is not love direction of experience, side of war, side of domination control. Again, it's a experience of consciousness, and on that level it's us who giving some assignment, good or bad, has some right to be and doesn't have any right to be. It's our human perspective, but on that level it's just experience of consciousness. And like what you are saying, to free dragons, and he was actually saying a lot that a lot of dragons from other places were trapped here, lured in our experience. And what we see now, it's turning in direction of experience on universal level, from limitations and duality and control, domination. We are coming into experience of free will. Completely. I have my idea for experience, and if it's based in universal law, I have right to have that experience that we're not having for a long time. This is what you are saying, Tanya. Those dragons freed, and some dragons were wanting to leave this place for a long time, but they couldn't. They were part of that experience of limitations. And now this is opportunity for many dragons just to go home. And that's we activating our connection to planets through those dragon energy. It's kind like explaining what's happening in connection to history of human experience and universal experience of limitations.
Well, and seeing that bound energy was used to hold the earth in place, right? So Earth couldn't go through her transitions. I mean, think about like wearing a straitjacket, right? It's certain energy portals and vortices on Earth. When this creative dragon energy, or dragons, etheric dragons, get bound into these energetics, it almost like holds in place a grid that works like a straitjacket for Earth Mother in those places. So, she like struggles to kind of like get out of that energy. When the energy is free, then she's free to kind of go through her transformation process, and us along with it.
Agreed with you 100%. Yes.
So, back to the dodecahedron.
Is the dodecahedron also connected to water, to flow, going with the flow? Is that the water element? The dodecahedron?
I can't recall whether it's the earth element or the water. I guess the cube would be the water. The earth element?
Cube, it's Earth. Cube,
Yeah.
it's
I
Earth.
think it's the water, if I remember correctly. But you know what, you guys just talking about the planet and the dragons, and you know, that just leads us back to looking at us all being one. You know, like the dragons being connected to the people being connected. Like, you know, the stories about Genghis Khan and Bruce Lee. You know, and obviously, you know, going back to what AB told us about all those dragons being trapped here through the period where Genghis Khan and his potency and the dragon energy and all of that. And this is all the connection. So as we're liberating ourselves here, as we're liberating and deprogramming ourselves, the same goes for the dragons, the same goes for the earth. So we're all connected as such. So I'm very happy about this conversation. We're having a beautiful conversation here. And I'm really happy that we've got Irina here as well, speak to us from her personal perspective here. And then taking it to the dragons and taking it to the karmic resolution aspect of all of that, and staying in complete neutrality as the observers. This is, so when I look at the fire now, I just want to look at the fire. Just look at the fire. And thank you, Tanya, for taking us back. I keep forgetting that we are in this embassy in the inner earth. Yeah. And I just want you to look around that fire now and just see how brightly that fire is burning. And it doesn't, for me, when I look at it, there is no chaos to it. It's a very ordered fire. It's warming everything around, and it's not just us sitting there. I think when we started the conversation, it was like, okay, we open up the space, but as we've been talking here, there has been an accumulation of beings without bodies that have sat down next to us saying, oh my God, I love those guys. I like the way the connections they make. It's very much a teaching perspective today, what we're doing, just by talking. Just observe the unseen that is really enjoying this conversation. I'm almost feeling cold at the moment, almost like we are in a vortex of some kind. Can you perceive that? Or is it just me? I'm almost like...
my feet and my hands are very cold right now. But I can't really say if it's because the place is cold here.
Really, hey, we're sitting around the fire. Let's put more wood on the fire. There's definitely, I think, and I've been yawning. I don't know if you saw me yawning. That's as we're going through those conversations, the energy and the adjustment and the integration and whatever else that is. There's a lot going on. I can feel it in my body. I'm cold. There's definitely vortexing by connecting to what we've been connecting to, but not in a bad way.
Remember, Andrew was saying when you're feeling hot from inside, you are integrating what you're going through. When you're feeling cold, it's like too much for your body. So guys, just look into your personal process. Are you already allowed your personal involvement? If yes, just smile to that and relax. You don't need to be concerned on that deep level of energetic experience, what's happening. On human, take it out and burn it, transform it. But on energy level, and we all involved on energy level, because we are conscious beings. we are processing all that, what we are discussing. So just look and find your level of involvement. You don't need to put on your shoulders more than you can work with. So that cold, inner cold, it means by Andrew, you already overwhelming your system.
Okay, so I would like to add something here. Thank you for that, Irina. And now add your own knowingness, what the cold means to you. All right. It's very good to have all these inspirations and everything. Add your own knowingness as well to that one. Okay. And then whatever comes up for you, now as we are sitting around that fire, use it to add a bit more wood to the fire. So just imagine that you're sitting there and you're adding a bit more wood to the fire. Now, look around you there. And let's just see if there is a being, a person that is very familiar, that is trying to catch your eye, that is trying to catch your attention as you're looking around that fire. If there's somebody that is trying to catch your attention, just acknowledge them. And it might be one, might be more than just one. And if you want to have a quick conversation with them in your own space, then do that now. It might be a word, might be a sense, a feeling, anything. Just acknowledge that. And if there are any fears, if there is anything overloading you or something, then try it in the fire. Yeah. Not from a place of you're afraid, no. Use it as an energy to even bring the fire to a more elevated space, right? We're no longer needing to use to protect ourselves. We're just acknowledging an energy that is intense. Now take the intensity, use it for the fire, or use it for yourself to heal. Take it in the body. You've got the fire there. Transmute it, transform it over the fire like a marshmallow roasted. Fear energy. Roast, roast, roast. And then take it in as transformed energy to rejuvenate, to cleanse, to clear. And then I want to thank everyone around the fire.
I want to say something before you go on, Martina. I find this whole conversation here today, leading to dragons, quite fascinating, because Andrew's been talking about dragons for a long time, and I remember the first time I heard him talk about dragons. It didn't interest me because I didn't understand dragons. It was like it went right over my head, the whole topic of dragons. I'd never felt any connection to dragons. I didn't know I had any connection to dragons or anything like that. But just of recently, my attention has been brought back to dragons after all these years of hearing him talk about dragons. And I had to go and transcribe that one that you guys did with him back in 2018, I think it was. I did the transcript on that. And so I was able to bring in today the piece about the dragons and the portals over that area in Ukraine and that space over there. And I think that it was all leading up to today, to this conversation here this morning or this evening, wherever you are. And I find this quite fascinating, quite interesting, because it all came back full circle now. From not being interested in dragons to being totally enmeshed in this whole dragon concept once again, because we're all connected to a dragon, whether we believe it or we know it or don't know it. There is a dragon for each and every soul on this planet. And I find this so fascinating here today now. And I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you, Lana.
Mm-hmm.
So as we're sitting around that fire, look for that dragon. Look for your dragon that is around that fire. And again, it might be more than just one. And if you haven't done before, just make that connection and go over there. What does he look like? What does she look like? They are both anyway. Look at the colors, look at the shape. Has it got wings? And just allow the dragon to give you a hug, or you give a hug to that dragon. Just get a sense if there are any words spoken or not. Any message.
Well, it's interesting because I have a date written on a something I drew about back in March of last year. It's just below a year now, and I was sitting one morning and I was doing my my own thing, and I looked down on the carpet, and there I saw this image of a dragon's face on the carpet, and I've been sitting there for years. And I never saw this image before in the carpet, but all of a sudden this image of a dragon's face was just staring at me, and I said, I better draw this dragon's face and see what it actually looks like. So I was able to do that, and then I put color into the face eventually. So my dragon's face is basically green, and the comb across on the head is in blue, and the side of the face has some blue, and then a little bit of yellow in the lower chin, and it has blue eyes, and a little bit of red streaks on the face of the dragon. And that's all the dragon would show me of itself, is its face, not the size or its body or anything like that. But I found that it was quite interesting that I'm seeing a dragon's face right in the carpet.
Well, you've activated your dragon energy. That's very exciting. You can work with that dragon now. Work with it a bit more consciously even, ask him question. Allow him to show himself, I say himself to you.
Or her, could be a her.
Yeah. Size isn't relevant because they can make themselves very large or very small.
Yeah. Well, that's what led me to be able to do the transcript on the dragon, and being able to be part of this conversation here today about dragon energies, because I've been working my way up to that.
Yeah. And inspire us to talk about it, bring it up, be the contributor to the conversation by bringing it up, so that we can all start emanating our dragon energy.
Yeah, it's probably about time we all start thinking more deeply on that level of dragons, our dragons.
Absolutely.
The dragon that's assigned to each one of us.
Thank you, Lana. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I just have something that I wanted to add. I know, Irina was talking earlier about when she moved to the United States, and the hardest thing for her was there was no one to tell her what to do. And this energy, I felt this energy before also moving from, a corporate job to starting my own business, and the fear that was held there around, it being hard and going through that growth period. And, you know, sometimes I just wished, oh, I just wish someone would tell me what to do again. And I just want to throw that in the fire.
Yes.
That fear around stepping out and doing our own thing and following our free will, and any fear around that, anything that's drawing anyone listening to this conversation, including those of us here. I want that empowerment back, right? I'm going to let go of all of that wishing that someone would tell me what to do, because I don't need that. I have that.
Throw it in.
Yeah, so I'm throwing it in the fire and letting it burn away with the witness of the dragon people.
Yes.
And all of our Earth Nouveau Hub, Hollow Earth friends sitting around the fire today. Thank you.
Beautiful. So that we may be able to start choosing for us. Just because we can, right? Make choices. And again, and again, and again, and again. Fantastic. Anyone else who wants to throw something in the fire? I'm going to throw into the fire anything that doesn't allow me to go to the edge of unknowingness. Anything that doesn't allow me to acknowledge that I'm going there all the time.
I think that last week's call resolved this for me, but that pressure or expectation on myself to fulfill a purpose. Last week really cleared that for me, but I think that just for reinforcement, I'll throw that to the fire too, because that does keep you from living fully when you're always waiting for what you're supposed to be doing next. So
Purpose in the fire.
yeah, we'll say about that. Yes.
Let's transform purpose into choice.
Yes.
We already heard that before, but now we can really, hey, and look what it does to the fire. Oh my God. Woo, fireworks. Right?
Sparkly, sparkly.
Yeah, and there are quite a few people that left. You feel that? Not everybody liked that. They can leave. Go.
I liked it.
I want to throw in the chains that bind me.
Yeah.
Cut them off and throw the iron in there, because fire can burn it.
Throw it in, all the chains go into the fire.
And long lineage, long line of chains.
Fantastic.
Could I add 2 pieces from the transcript on the dragons here that would help us understand them a little better? What Andrew said is that kids today are born to YouTube and they are not exposed to dragons, nor you, nor I, or anyone else. For each generation differently. 500 generations ago, the dragons were only in a handful of books, and the stories were only told by the storytellers. And 500,000 years ago, you could still see one fly around the sky. So the last time we saw dragons in the sky were 500,000 years ago. That's a long, long time. And then he says here, a dragon's individual purpose as part of the celestial being, hundreds of millions of dragons for every living thing here, even the most micro of microorganisms to the macroorganisms, if you go through a birth process, subsurface, astral, or surface, there is a bubble of energy that's around you that is a dragon. That is your direct medium to the celestial mind as part of the rule, the very foundational rule of this hologram. And I wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you. And those rules are changing. Fantastic.
So it's been a long time coming. Coming back, I should say.
We need a dance party. At some point. Some kind of, that's what I was seeing. I was seeing a jester around the fire. This little jester was jumping around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the mythical creatures coming back. Show us, Amy.
Show us what?
The mythical creature.
Oh. Well, darn, because I would love to save this for next time. Can I?
Oh, okay.
Because
Good.
it's, and I have to go soon, but yeah,
Okay.
it's a long, I know, I do want to share that. I do want to share it. Yeah.
Okay. We'll do that next.
This can connect. This can connect
It can connect. Okay.
to the dragons, maybe.
All right. We'll do it next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
All
We'll
right.
have to bring in our dragon drums so we can have a dragon party.
Yeah, we need a party.
Well, if look around the fire, they're all partying. They're all like drinking tequila. Okay. Salud.
Bet you got some good tequila in Mexico, huh?
In the earth, even better. They got the real thing down there. Oh, I need to go
Mhm.
down there, get myself some proper stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, Tanya, why don't you do us a favor and close down the fire for us?
So as we're all sitting around the fire, reach out to the one next to you and touch them and see us all connected with love and cooperation. And as the fire begins to die down, we can look into each other's eyes and see each of us as a soul, an explorer of consciousness during this time of transition on Earth, and feel grateful and loved and seen. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you so much. Beautiful gathering today. Thank you very much for your contributions, for your energy, for being you. And we're going to see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Irina.
everyone.